In 1979, first responders arrived at the Miami Aerospace Academy to find it in complete chaos. Students and teachers alike were running the halls, breaking out windows, and tearing down doors, but not for the reasons that today's media has conditioned us to think. Or maybe it was, deep down at the core of things. That'll be something to ponder later on. As for this particular case, there are a few theories as to what caused all the chaos. The leader of the school cried, "Political interference." Psychologists point toward mass hysteria. A science teacher on site claimed responsibility due to a hypnosis experiment gone wrong. An English teacher there said it was her fault for allowing students to use a Ouija board in class. Regardless of which explanation you lean toward, the eyewitness claims of the students all remain the same. It was demons. Everyone loves a good, strange, weird, or bizarre story. Well, welcome to the American South, where dark legends and haunted history lurk around every corner. Where superstition, folklore, and a touch of backwoods magic blend with everyday culture. Some say, in order to survive. This is Dixie After Dark. On Thursday, October 25th, 1979, fire and rescue personnel were dispatched due to a report of an unconscious student at the Miami Aerospace Academy, a military boarding school in Miami's Little Havana district. On arrival, though, according to fire official Dan LeMay, there were as many as 3 that were passed out, and scores of others screaming and running throughout the building. Many of those in a panic were screaming about spirits. The situation was then escalated to local police. Officer Harry Cunnell reported, quote, "people yelling and screaming that they were possessed." Initial reports in the Miami News and others reported that the cause of everything was interactions with a Ouija board getting out of control. According to English teacher Ileana Vicedo, the Ouija board was being used in her class. According to Miss Vicedo, everyone just got carried away and it was a riot. There were girls screaming that there was a spirit inside the Ouija board. She accepted full responsibility and resigned from her position later that day. Police were confused about the event, to say the least. They believed it to be a contained outbreak within the classroom, which then led to mass hysteria throughout the school, resulting in both students and staff kicking walls, tearing down doors, and breaking out windows, all while screaming about demons. According to 7th grader Jose Navarro, everyone felt weak. Me and my friends made a cross. We felt there were demons or something around. Fire department spokesman Dan LeMay said 6 or 7 of them flaked out all over the place. Then it mushroomed from there. Authorities estimated that about 100 of the 280 student population were caught up or participated in the quote Ouija riots. But outside of some scratches and bruises and a few cuts from broken glass, no major injuries were ever reported. While there, fire officials cited the school for not having the properly tagged fire extinguishers in the dorms, combustible material near a hot water heater, and no smoke detector or fire alarms. The police themselves were not allowed into the building by the school president. The next day, the Miami News reported that things were back to normal at the school. By this time, though, the Associated Press and the United Press International had picked up the story, and the story had a major shift. Now, instead of a Ouija board session in an English class, the source of the events was a hypnosis demonstration in a 10th grade science class, led by teacher Patrice Murphy. The articles still quote some students claiming there had been a previous class on the supernatural, but none of the articles mention the name or grade of that class or teacher. All other aspects of the original story remain the same, though, with the exception of the exclusion of the original accounts of a Ouija board session. Those articles do quote the English teacher and confessor of the Ouija board sessions, Miss Vicedo, as stating that she had no knowledge of any hypnosis demonstrations going on at the school, but makes no other mention of her original claims or why she was even quoted in particular at all. The school owner and president, Evaristo Marina, also stated that no hypnosis demonstration or any class on the supernatural ever took place. According to Marina, all of this was simply political sabotage. Marina, who was running for a seat on city council, stated, "We don't teach those things here. Somebody put the kids up to it. 1 week before the election, and everyone is trying to get me." Marina refused to let the police or reporters inside the building, blaming them for the situation as well. When you are a child and the fire, police, health, and media people all come at you at once, you can go crazy. It's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. There was another unnamed student quoted as saying, "I saw 3 girls. They had fainted. They were screaming about Bloody Mary or something, and more started screaming." The new articles go on to say that that student was quickly hustled away by older students and told to keep quiet. Follow-up articles quote Bert Tannen, a licensed hypnotist in Miami. "The reactions under hypnosis are just the opposite, serene and calm. That story, I haven't heard of anything so ridiculous." And that's pretty much it. There's a lot of speculation after that, but as far as official records, the story seemed to disappear as quick as it came on the scene. So let's see what we can unpack and what all we can make out of these accounts. The first glaring thing to me was how the story changed from the time it was first reported to when national news picked it up. I'm not jumping on any kind of cover-up fake news bandwagon here. I just thought that was interesting. It was a glaring fact to me. One I don't see other researchers picking up on or pointing out. Everyone seems to jump on the hypnosis story, regardless of the fact that it was disputed by staff at the school. I also find it interesting that the original English teacher that admitted to the Ouija board session, Miss Vicedo, was quoted in follow-up articles. She does claim no knowledge of any hypnosis demonstrations. Could this have been an attempt to steer readers that recalled her name from the original reports into associating her name with having, quote, no knowledge? It would be difficult to follow up on in 1979. Remember, she did resign the day of the riot, after all. Another oddity that kept nagging at me was the fact that multiple articles point out that the school itself was pink. I found that off with the school being a military school, but it could be as simple as being in the flamboyant Miami, Florida culture. Still though, with the nature of this story, I couldn't help but be reminded of another particular pink room reported in another one of our earlier presentations related to Corpsewood Manor. But again, that's just me. I want to think that the original reports of a Ouija board session going out of control is what actually happened. That was the initial reports by students, staff, police, and reporters. Sure, additional investigation could have found out that that was not the case, and at the same time, a hypnosis demonstration was actually taking place. At the same time, in a military school curriculum. Simultaneous hypnosis and Ouija board classes taking place in a military school. Sure, I guess. My disbelief could just be coming from a more modern idea of school curriculum though. Let's take it at face value though. Let's run with the hypnosis demonstration idea at a military school. That alone sets off my conspiracy red flags. I could see it. This is only 2 years after the start of the Stargate project, after all. If you don't know, the Stargate project was a secret army thing to investigate psychic phenomena for intelligence gathering and such, which ran from 1977 to 1995, then being declassified by the CIA, basically stating that the project didn't work. I kinda want to believe that the Army and the US government wouldn't have experimented on high school students though. But then again, I think we all know better than that. So what about Evaristo Marina, the school's owner and president, and his claims of political sabotage? Needless to say, he did not win that election, nor the 2 previous offices he ran for, nor the 2 he ran for afterwards. It seems that none of his political opponents needed any kind of sabotage. From a political standpoint, it seems Marina was already well versed in losing elections. Besides, have you ever tried to organize 100 plus teenagers to do anything? And we're talking about a time well before social media. As for the school itself, the Miami Aerospace Academy was in operation from 1968 until 1989. The entirety of this operation was led by Evaristo Marina, who had previously owned a beverage company. He sold that company and used the profits from the sale to open the Miami Aerospace Academy, advertising it as military-style training for students, grades kindergarten through 12th grade. It was a full-blown boarding school with dormitories for students. I found conflicting reports as to whether it was strictly a military-style school or whether it was a juvenile detention type school, but neither can be fully verified to satisfy my curiosity. I find it difficult to believe that a juvenile detention center would have classes as low as kindergarten. But what do I know? I do know there was a child as young as that enrolled at this school though, as we learned from reports near the time of its closing. As if stories and rumors of demonic activity weren't enough, new allegations arose in 1985. On May 13th, 1985, The United Press International reported that a 17-year-old girl housed at the school had become pregnant. The students' parents learned about this after a visit to their daughter at the school, only to discover that the girl was 7 months pregnant. The student claimed that she became pregnant after a male student forced himself into her dorm room. An investigation reported that out of the 341 students enrolled in the dormitories at the Miami Aerospace Academy that year, 6 were female. School officials said that they were unaware of the girl's condition, even though she was now 7 months pregnant. Reporters looking into the case also revealed that a week prior, 4 teenage cadets were arrested on charges of sexual assault on a younger male student. And the week before that, allegations of abuse were made by a 6-year-old cadet, saying he was forced to be given baths by older students, as well as given drugs. One of the students arrested had been placed at the boarding school as part of a 10-year probation sentence on a previous manslaughter charge, where he killed his own father. Evaristo Marina, still owner of the academy, pointed out that none of the school staffs were named in any of the allegations, and further went on to say that any and all of the allegations were false, including the pregnancy of the teenage girl cadet, who went on to deliver a healthy baby 2 months later. Marina's stance was that the academy met all regulations that governed nonprofit schools. By this time, the state of Florida decided to get involved. Dr. Marshall Franks, director of state and federal regulations for the Florida Department of Education, pointed out that the state had virtually no regulations for private, nonprofit schools. Because the school never accepted federal or state funds, it didn't fall under federal or state regulation. That was the extent of the state of Florida's involvement. They jumped in, basically made a statement that there was nothing they could do, then stepped aside. Angry parents and news reporters stayed on the case though, and eventually the Miami Aerospace Academy was closed down 4 years later in 1989 due to a combination of those scandals, financial problems, living conditions, and the school being unaccredited. Today, the organization Unsilenced, a survivor-led nonprofit organization that helps teens and adults who have experienced institutional child abuse, has a special group within their organization specifically for survivors of the Miami Aerospace Academy. For anyone that is moved to do so by this story, I will include a link to their website where donations can be made to help the survivors of the Miami Aerospace Academy. Several documentaries have been made covering the events from 1979, with those students willing to speak out still standing by their original stories, including events that never made it into the newspaper reports, descriptions of a girl levitating, and a boy demonstrating feats of superhuman strength during what was called the Ouija riots. As far as for me, I can't speak to the accounts or theories of a hypnosis demonstration gone bad. I have no experience with hypnosis, and quite frankly, I can say I never will. I just don't trust people enough to let them poke around in my head while I'm out of it. As far as a Ouija board or demonic activity, I've experienced enough that I could see the original counts as being true. I'll just leave that there for now. Some things seen just can't be unseen. As far as everything being a made-up, organized political hit job, come on, I just don't see it. I mean, it's possible, I guess. But after going through all the accounts I could find, coupled with the statements and actions, especially with the other allegations made in 1985, my personal opinion is we're dealing with an egomaniac that just refuses to admit to loss or accept any personal accountability in anything. And that's at the bare minimum. For me, when you take the abuse allegations into account with the demonic allegations from 1979, it starts to paint a picture that we've seen too many times before. A believable account and timeline that always leaves too many damaged souls in its wake. It just so happens that it's rare for these accounts to make any kind of news that allows anyone to put two and two together. God bless those damaged souls from cases like this, and from the countless others that remained hidden from view.